and welcome to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV. I'm Louisa Britton. Your top stories on Thursday, the 14th of December. Fatal crash in Tonbridge, woman dies and 3 others injured in 3-car collision.
The passenger in the black Toyota died at the scene. The driver and the passenger from the Toyota Cruiser, as well as the driver of the Nissan Micra, have been taken to hospital with serious injuries.
Royal Mail prepare for busiest day of the year for Kent's posties.
What we found is over the course of the years, Christmas now is no longer just a thing for Royal Mail in December, it's also for the most part of November as well.
Jane Austen remembered. Kent wishes celebrated author happy birthday with annual lecture.
We now appreciate her wit, her trenchancy, her acute observations.
And in sport, find out why Gillingham top scorer Tom Eaves is having to tear himself away from the turkey this Christmas.
But first tonight, a woman has died and 3 others are seriously injured after a crash in Tonbridge. 3 cars were involved in the collision on 7 Mile Lane last night. Harry Pete went to the scene today.
What we know so far is that the incident occurred on this stretch of road behind me on the A228 7 Mile Lane near East Peckham. It involved 3 cars and has left 3 people injured and 1 woman has died. Now, the incident happened around 8:20 last night and involved a black Toyota, a silver Renault and a blue Nissan Micra. According to police, the black Toyota collided with a silver Renault that was travelling near the Martin Lane junction. The black Toyota then collided with a blue Nissan Micra. The passenger in the black Toyota died at the scene. The driver and the passenger from the Toyota Cruiser, as well as the driver of the Nissan Micra, have been taken to hospital with serious injuries. The incident last night comes exactly 1 week after 79-year-old John Stewart was knocked down on the same stretch of road, but at the junction with Old Church Lane. John Stewart had been out walking and was knocked down at around 6 p.m. And this week his family had paid tribute to him, calling him a loving, gentle man.
The exact cause of the crash last night isn't yet known, but in the last few months, Kent's roads have seen 17 fatal collisions, a rise of 31% from the same period last year. And Kent Fire and Rescue have encouraged drivers to take care, especially in tricky winter weather.
What tends to happen is when you get a sudden change in weather conditions, then we may see ourselves responding to more incidents until such a point as the general public become a little bit more familiar with that change that's occurred. So really, from our point of view, it just indicates when there's a change in weather that there may be occasions for us to be needed a little bit more frequently. Once we've had a prolonged period of poor weather, well, you know, the general public, we tend to acclimatise ourselves to dealing with that. But we would just ask people to go out already thinking it could change tomorrow. What am I going to do if it's snowy or icy?
The incident last night is being investigated by the Serious Collision Investigation Unit, and if you think you saw something or think you have any information that you can help police out, you can call them on 01622 798 538. This is Harry Pete for KMTV in East Peckham.
Now, a man who used his pet pit bull dog as a weapon in Dover has been put in prison. Michael Hook's partner, Louise Dunphy, snatched prescription drugs from a woman in a supermarket car park. And during the struggle, he ordered his dog, Banjo, to bite the victim. The dog bit the woman before turning on Dunphy and biting her on the leg too. Judge Simon James said using the dog as a weapon was unforgivable and handed him a sentence of 2.5 years at Canterbury Crown Court. His partner received an 8-month suspended sentence. The animal was taken away by police but has since died. Now, a police investigating a house fire in Tonbridge want to talk to 2 men who helped in the aftermath. Police and fire service investigators were called to St Mary's Road after 7 people had to flee their homes when the fire broke out just after 3 in the morning on November the 26th. It's believed to have started in a garden shed before spreading to 2 houses. Ambulance crews were called and 5 people were treated for smoke inhalation. The cause of the fire remains unexplained, and police are trying to determine if there were any suspicious circumstances. Next night, the driver of an injured motorcyclist a driver who injured a motorcyclist when he crashed into a bridge on the M20 has admitted causing serious injury by dangerous driving. Jane Austen had previously denied the charge and was due to stand trial at Maidstone Crown Court in February, while our reporter Cameron Tucker's been following the story and joins me now. So Cameron, what was said in court?
Well, 64-year-old Jane Austen spoke only to confirm his name and also to enter a plea. Judge Philip Statham said that it was quite remarkable that there wasn't a major pile-up because of the collapsed bridge, and remarkable no one lost their lives. While no one was killed, 73-year-old Jim Shaw came off his motorbike to avoid the fallen bridge, leaving him with 3 broken ribs. Mr. Shaw didn't actually attend the hearing today, but in a victim statement, he said he was in no doubt that had the bridge come down a second earlier, he could very well be dead now. And since the incident, he's suffered physically and mentally. He'd also said, adding he was constantly in pain, unable to sleep for more than 4 hours at a time, and that the painkillers that he was on were beginning to take their toll.
Obviously, he hasn't spoken much in court, but has Austen said anything at any other point?
Well, yeah, straight after the crash, he said, and this is to quote him, he said that he had fouled up. He'd also previously maintained that he measured the machinery that caused the crash. He's since retracted that. Coming out of court today, we briefly heard from him talking to the media.
I feel seriously sorry for him. I wish it hadn't happened, but it did, and I can't do anything about that.
And going back to the incident in August, there was major damage at the time.
Yes, to the tune of £1.5 million. This was including £118,000 of damage to a truck and trailer, more than £35,000 to Mr. Austen's lorry. The crash caused gridlock on one of the busiest days of the year on the August bank holiday weekend, and the bridge that was damaged has since been demolished and has not been replaced since.
Great, thanks for that, Cameron, for that update. Now, Theresa May's been heading to Brussels to talk with EU leaders today after 11 Conservative MPs rebelled against her by backing an amendment that will ensure a vote on the final Brexit deal. The MPs beat Mrs May by just 4 votes, leading to her first Commons defeat as Prime Minister. So, when have you been rebellious, and what's the most rebellious thing you've done? We asked shoppers in Rochester.
I've never been a rebel. I'm a chartered accountant by origin. No imagination whatsoever.
That could lead me into all sorts of problems.
Resigning your job without another job.
Yeah, probably.
Many years ago.
Yeah, because I fell out with the boss.
Oh, good Lord above. Can't think of... No. I've always been very law-abiding. I went to convent school and we did exactly as we were told.
I would say I come from a family where we didn't really, well, God conscious, but didn't really, wasn't really living out the way we should be living in terms of God.
Shoppers in Rochester there. But now to talk a bit more about some of the challenges the Prime Minister now faces as she meets with EU leaders. I'm joined by Professor Tim Luckhurst, Head of the Centre for Journalism at the University of Kent. So Tim, what is Theresa May hoping to achieve in Brussels?
Well, Theresa May truly, madly, deeply wants to persuade her fellow EU leaders to move on from all the small technical discussions on which they've spent a year to talking about the big issues, the future relationship between Britain and the European Union. But she also wants to do something else, I think. She wants to restore some momentum, some of the momentum that was damaged by that defeat in the House of Commons last night. After all, a week ago, Mrs May was riding high and the Conservative Party was looking united. They've moved Brexit on the stage. Now she's looking a little vulnerable and she wants to get that momentum restored in Brussels tonight.
Yes, and Jeremy Corbyn's called this a defeat as a humiliating one, a loss of authority. Is that really the case?
Well, I think it was an embarrassment for Mrs May to lose a vote on the withdrawal bill. She's lost because Conservative MPs rebelled, and it is an indication that those on the the pro-Remain side of the Conservative Party and those who are deeply worried about Brexit are prepared to rebel, and they could do so again. That does give her a problem. And Mr Corbyn isn't entirely without problems himself. 2 Labour MPs voted with the government last night because they're very much pro-Brexit, and Mr Corbyn doesn't want to make his position clear because Labour voters are divided on Brexit too, so it's not quite so simple for him.
And if she does get agreement now with the EU leaders, will it all be plain sailing moving forward?
If only, and I'm sure she would love to think it could be, but no, it won't, because the issues which Britain still has to agree with the European Union, predominantly the nature of the relationship on trade, what access will our banks, our service industries, our airlines have to the European single market after we've left that single market. Those issues are much, much more complicated to agree than the issues on which we've spent a year disagreeing with the European Union. So there's a huge challenge ahead, and there's a very short-term one as well. There's another vote on the EU withdrawal bill next week, the vote on whether or not to set a final deadline date for Brexit. The Prime Minister wants to do it. Those who rebelled this week don't want to do it. They might win again. That could be another embarrassment.
So it seems like it might be a tricky road up until then.
Deeply difficult, Louisa, yes.
Great, thanks for that, Tim. Now, Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility and Mansfield Park, just some of Jane Austen's classic novels. And after the break, we see how Tonbridge celebrated the author's birthday. Don't go away.
As the years go by, you more and more appreciate as phenomenally subtle and clever and technically audacious, experimental for her time writer. So I just tried today to show a bit of the trickery of her writing, really.
And welcome back to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV. Now, a troubleshooter's been drafted in to help hospitals in East Kent throughout the winter period. Dr Anne Rainsbury was appointed by NHS England to oversee the hospitals run by the East Kent University Hospitals Trust over the next few months. The move to bring an outsider in is seen as a sign there are concerns over the Trust's capacity to cope with increasing numbers of patients during the winter. Well, to talk a bit more about this, I'm joined by a political editor, Paul Francis. So, Paul, why has this troubleshooter been brought in?
Well, it's against this backdrop of the Trust having some of the worst waiting times of all hospitals in the UK. And it's going through a period of potential reorganisation, and there are concerns that on its own it might struggle. So they're drafting in an expert to help them navigate their way through the winter period when potentially the demand for more beds is going to increase.
And what do we know about her so far?
Well, she's been in the NHS for 27 years, recently retired actually, but her last job was as the NHS Regional Director for London. And so she's not short of experience, and it would be interesting to see whether her presence makes much difference.
But this plan isn't for the long term, though. It's only predicted for the winter, is
yes,
that right?
I mean, the winter, obviously during the winter period, there is the potential for more patients to come down with conditions that require them to be in hospital. And her particular role is going to be just for the winter, not beyond that. And we've already got an interim new chief executive for the Trust who's come from the Dartford and Gravesham NHS Trust. So there's been a lot of movement within the system, and I think what the Trust probably needs is a period of stability.
And is the NHS saying anything in particular about this troubleshooting?
Well, I think what's interesting about this appointment is that it's come from NHS England. It's not come from the Trust. So there's it's not quite the NHS England imposing somebody on the Trust, but I imagine that they've given them no choice in the matter.
But winter's always a particularly difficult time in terms of pressures that the NHS might face, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely, yes, because of the potential for particularly elderly patients to come down with conditions which might require them to stay in hospital for quite long periods. And attached to this issue is the problem of capacity in the social care network and the fear over bed blocking that sometimes comes with the winter.
Great, thanks for that, Paul. Now, a children's centre in Canterbury used by hundreds of families is facing closure as part of a cost-cutting drive by Kent County Council. The authority wants to move the services out of the Riverside Centre in Kingsmead, claiming it can offer higher quality provision and save money. But users aren't convinced they'll still be able to easily access the services elsewhere in the district. Helen Catmull is a mum who uses the service.
Mums and dads aren't comfortable enough to go see other professionals, but can happily go and see somebody who isn't judgmental, will give you advice in a safe and secure way, happily as well.
With a look ahead to Gillingham's game against Bristol Rovers on Saturday, here's Keelan with the sport.
7 points separate Gills and the travelling Pirates in League One ahead of Rovers' trip to Priestfield at the weekend. Steve Lovell could be set to welcome back Connor Wilkinson and Bradley Garmston for Saturday's contest. The Gills manager admits the fullback has been a big miss for them this term.
Bradley coming in will be like a new signing to me. You know, everybody knows what Bradley can bring to the team. And, you know, for me, he's been a little bit of a miss for us this year on that left side. I think Connor Ogilvie has gone in and done a really good job. He's a different kind of player to Bradley Garmston. Bradley's dynamic, he's quick, and he's a good attacking left-back, left-sided midfield player. And it's something that we've perhaps missed this year.
Arguably Gillingham's best player this season has been Tom Eaves. His stunning half volley against Plymouth was his 8th league goal of the campaign, and the Gills will need his goals and all-round contribution during the busy festive period. That's providing he can steer himself away from some Christmas treats, though.
It's always difficult over the Christmas period because, you know, you're smelling all the food, and I'm a big foodie, I love my food, so... But, you know, I think there's like 6 games crammed into the next few weeks, which is going to be difficult. But I'm just going to try and enjoy it, to be honest with you. I'm just going to try and enjoy it because that's what we're here for, to play football. And, you know, you forget sometimes that you do enjoy the game, and it's like, well, right, we've got 6 games, great. Let's go and get some points on the board and get up the table.
Steve Lovell still searching for his first win as permanent boss since 3 points came in his first game at Walsall. This time last year, Lovell was on the coaching team at non-league Bromley, and the Gills boss admits it's been a remarkable 12 months for him.
It has been a bit of a whirlwind situation, but it's one that obviously for the reasons you don't like to see people losing their jobs. And with Adi and Peter, that was the case. But from a personal point of view, it opened the door for me to come in and do something I've always wanted to do. And it's something that I'm enjoying. It's something that is a challenge to me, and it'll remain a challenge to me.
Staying with football, and in case you missed it, during Monday's edition of Team Talk, here are the contenders for November's Goal of the Month competition. Joe Piggott's been one of the stars for Maidstone this season. A week after scoring as the Stones defeated Cheltenham in the FA Cup, he produced this.
Goals one! It's a goal! What a superb goal! Inside the near post. It's Torquay United 0, Maidstone United 1.
Goal B is from Faversham's Dan Carrington, who showed shades of Dele Alli's famous goal against Crystal Palace with this neat flick and finish against South Park. Our third goal comes from the big man Nathan Elder, who crashed home the opening goal for Tonbridge Angels during defeat at Staines Town. Lyle Delaverde's quick feet earns him a place on our list. His nimble work and slick finish gave Dartford their third goal during a 4-1 win over Gloucester. And to vote for your favourite, head over to Team Talk's Twitter handle, which is @KM_Team Talk, and the winner will be announced on next Monday's show. That's it in sport for now. I'll have more for you later on in the programme.
Fans of the writer Jane Austen have celebrated what would be the novelist's 242nd birthday in Tonbridge. Every year, a guest speaker delivers a lecture in the town about the author and her writings. Our reporter Cameron Tucker was in attendance.
The Church of St Peter and St Paul in Tonbridge played host to the Jane Austen birthday address. The annual lecture was delivered by Austen expert Professor John Mullen in what's been a bumper year for the literary giant.
The bicentenary of her death has been a year full of Jane Austen occasions. In one way, she's terribly easy to read, and an intelligent 13-year-old can read Pride and Prejudice and really get it. But on the other hand, she's also a novelist that, as the years go by, you more and more appreciate as phenomenally subtle and clever and technically audacious, experimental for her time writer. So I just tried today to show a bit of the trickery of her writing, really.
While many counties lay claim to the writer's heritage, Kent has close connections with Austen. Her brother Henry and grandfather William are among Kent's Austenian links.
Jane's father was educated at Tonbridge School, and then of course Jane's brother was adopted by the Knight family over at Godmersham. So Kent is a really special county when it comes to Jane Austen.
With 2017 marking the 200th anniversary of Austen's death, and with her becoming the face of the £10 note, who better to reflect on Austen's legacy than the relations?
Well, I think she'd be pleased that she's been rescued from the bonnets and breeches category that she'd been in for a very long time. That we now appreciate her wit, her trenchancy, her acute observations.
I suppose she seems to stand out especially in this modern world, really. There's something to be kind of people who would probably have had no interest some years back. They've kind of taken her to heart, I think, and it's something refreshing and different, I suppose, for lots of people.
As those gathered reflected on her impact, it's fitting to quote from Pride and Prejudice, "Think only of the past, as its remembrance gives you pleasure." Cameron Tucker, KMTV, Tonbridge.
A reminder, you can watch Kent Tonight live and on catch up at our website kmtv.co.uk. You can stay up to date with all the news, sports and weather from right across Kent whenever and wherever you are. You'll find breaking news, local features and repeats of our special programmes. Tonight it's going to be chilly with lows of 2 degrees across the east of Kent. Temperatures will stay the same across most of the county on Friday morning, with the clouds sticking around into the afternoon, and the wind will pick up with lows of 3 near Tonbridge Wells. Looking ahead, and the sun will be replaced by clouds into next week, but we'll see a rise in temperatures to 10 degrees. And coming up after the break, Poppy Jeffrey visits the Medway Royal Mail Centre on its busiest day of the year, seeing how they deal with the run-up to Christmas. Don't go away.
I mean, the guys who work here, most of which are long-serving, and we've got a good, strong family connection here at Medway as well. They're very busy people, but I think they get a kick out of the fact that we're able to put parcels in front of small children and adults at this time of year and connect them with their presents, and indeed cards from people that they rarely hear from.
And welcome to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV. I'm Louisa Britton. Your top stories on Thursday, the 14th of December. Fatal crash in Tonbridge, woman dies and 3 others injured in 3-car collision.
The passenger in the black Toyota died at the scene. The driver and the passenger from the Toyota Cruiser as well as the driver of the Nissan Micra, have been taken to hospital with serious injuries.
Royal Mail prepare for busiest day of the year for Kent's posties.
What we found is over the course of the years, Christmas now is no longer just a thing for Royal Mail in December, it's also for the most part of November as well.
Jane Austen remembered. Kent wishes celebrated author happy birthday with annual lecture.
We now appreciate her wit, her trenchancy, her acute observations.
And in sport, Bricky's building blocks demolished as Sittingbourne blow a 2-goal lead in the Bostik South.
A woman has died and 3 others are seriously injured after a crash in Tonbridge. 3 cars were involved in the collision on 7 Mile Lane last night. Harry Pete went to the scene today.
What we know so far is that the incident occurred on this stretch of road behind me on the A228 7 Mile Lane near East Peckham. It involved 3 cars and has left 3 people injured and 1 woman has died. Now, the incident happened around 8:20 last night and involved a black Toyota, a silver Renault and a blue Nissan Micra. According to police, the black Toyota collided with a silver Renault that was travelling near the Martin Lane junction. The black Toyota then collided with a blue Nissan Micra. The passenger in the black Toyota died at the scene. The driver and the passenger from the Toyota Cruiser, as well as the driver of the Nissan Micra, have been taken to hospital with serious injuries. The incident last night comes exactly 1 week after 79-year-old John Stewart was knocked down on the same stretch of road, but at the junction with Old Church Lane. John Stewart had been out walking and was knocked down at around 6 p.m. And this week his family had paid tribute to him, calling him a loving, gentle man.
The exact cause of the crash last night isn't yet known, but in the last few months, Kent's roads have seen 17 fatal collisions, a rise of 31% from the same period last year. And Kent Fire and Rescue have encouraged drivers to take care, especially in tricky winter weather.
What tends to happen is when you get a sudden change in weather conditions, then we may see ourselves responding to more incidents until such a point as the general public become a little bit more familiar with that change that's occurred. So really, from our point of view, it just indicates when there's a change in weather that there may be occasions for us to be needed a little bit more frequently. Once we've had a prolonged period of poor weather, well, you know, the general public, we tend to acclimatise ourselves to dealing with that. But we would just ask people to go out already thinking it could change tomorrow. What am I going to do if it's snowy or icy?
The incident last night is being investigated by the Serious Collision Investigation Unit, and if you think you saw something or think you have any information that you can help police out, you can call them on 01622 798 538. This is Harry Pete for KMTV in East Peckham.
Next night, an update on some news we brought you earlier. 64-year-old Jane Austen, who crashed into the M20 bridge in August last year, causing gridlock on one of the busiest days of the year, has been sentenced. Today, he admitted causing serious injury by dangerous driving. He's avoided prison and was given a 2-month sentence, suspended for 2 years with 200 hours of unpaid work. Now, it's a busy day for postal workers across the country, especially at the Medway Mail Centre. Today they will have to handle more than double the parcels they do on an average day. Bobby Jeffrey has more.
It's Christmas and time to send a card to loved ones or a gift to lucky friends. For postal workers, this marks the busiest time of the year. If you send a letter or parcel, it might come here, to the Medway Mail Centre.
14th of December is the busiest day for Royal Mail staff. On an average day, they'll handle 270,000 parcels, but today it's more like 600,000.
Cards and letters are fed into this sorting machine, which puts an orange barcode on them after automatically reading the address and placing it into the correct pigeonhole for that area. There are slots for all across the country. But if an address cannot be read because of the colour of the envelope or the handwriting, then it goes to be sorted by hand by a number of employees. It's a very high efficiency process, and in just 24 hours, this centre will sort more than 3 million letters. But is that really as much as it sounds?
So what we found is over the course of the years, Christmas now is no longer just a thing for Royal Mail in December, it's also for the most part of November as well. It's a very challenging time in terms of managing the extra resources. For example, here at Medway, as we speak, we've employed another 430 workers here to cope with the rush at this time of year. I mean, the guys who work here, most of which are long-serving, and we've got a good, strong family connection here at Medway as well. They're very busy people, but I think they get a kick out of the fact that we're able to put parcels in front of small children and adults at this time of year and connect them with their presents, and indeed cards from people that they rarely hear from.
It's not just Neil who loves working for the Postal Force. I spoke to two of the Royal Mail's longest-serving employees here to find out what they like about working for the Post Office over the festive season.
The people. Yeah, definitely the people. It's the people, the characters that you work with through the years. I've worked with some brilliant characters through the years. They've all gone now, the older ones, but they were the old ones that taught you the job. You looked up to them and learnt from them.
And now we become a characters.
Yes. Yes. We're the part now.
Yeah.
You've still got time to post a card though. I'll let Neil explain when the last days you can manage it are.
Well, it's almost upon us, more or less a week away. So next Wednesday, second class, that's the 20th, and next Thursday for first class. So my final message would be please help us to get the mail to you by posting as quick as you possibly can.
This is Poppy Jeffrey for KMTV in Medway.
11 Conservative MPs have rebelled against Theresa May by backing an amendment that will ensure a vote on the final deal of Brexit. The MPs beat Mrs May by just 4 votes, leading to her first Commons defeat as Prime Minister. So it's important to stand up for what you believe in. We are shoppers in Rochester.
I think standing up for what I believe in will make the world a better place. And I believe for what I stand up for and what I believe, we can help fight the evil in this world and make the world a better place.
I think it's very important. It's very important. What I question of yesterday's events was I'm not sure that some of them are voting on that basis. I think it's a political thing rather than anything else, so it's very disappointing.
Oh yes, I do that, yes. Very important, yeah.
That's pretty important, yeah, pretty important. But politics is not really of any interest to me whatsoever.
I think it's very important, and that is why I'm standing up for fighting against Brexit. And I congratulate the 11 MPs who've actually voted to have a vote in Parliament, because I think without having a vote in Parliament, it disenfranchises nearly half the people who voted in the referendum.
Don't forget that you can keep up to date on all things going on in Kent by visiting our website kmtv.co.uk. You can check out some of our latest stories from across the county, like this review of a top-of-the-range electric car.
The Tesla Model SP100D, the fastest electric production car on the planet. With the government's plan to ban the sale of all petrol and diesel cars by 2040, you'll be seeing more electric cars on Kent's roads, but they won't all be quite like this.
So I've never been in a £150,000 car, let alone driven one, so this is a real treat for me. And you can definitely see the difference and where every single penny goes once you get inside here. It feels luxurious, it looks amazing, but it's when you get into the mechanics and the technology of the Tesla where it really comes into its own.
The entire car is controlled from this large console screen, which makes you feel like you're driving a spaceship rather than a car. But how far you can go on a charge depends on several factors like the average speed and outside temperatures. This particular model claims more than 400 miles for normal city driving, but in reality, it's not quite the case if you use various features like the ludicrous mode.
One thing I found frustrating though is the charge. I feel like I'm looking at my smartphone, looking at the icon to see if it's going to go from green to the dreaded red when you know that you've only got 10% battery left. And differently to a normal regular petrol and diesel car, you can nip to the garage and just fill up £10 or £15. That's not the case with this. Even if I go to one of Tesla's superchargers, it's going to take me a good 15 or 20 minutes to get enough to get me where I need to go.
There are 3 Tesla superchargers in Kent. They're in Maidstone, Bluewater and Folkestone. You can get a full charge in about an hour for free. You might want to make sure you live near one if you plan on getting a Tesla though, as charging at home overnight on normal mains will barely get you anywhere. You can install your own special charger for an additional cost. I thought it was a comfortable and pretty spacious saloon. It's quite practical too, but if I had the cash to buy one, I'm not sure I'd fork out all that money. Whether they're budget, mid-range or luxurious, you'll be seeing plenty more electric cars on Kent's Road soon.
Out in the street.
Tonight it's going to be chilly with lows of 2 degrees across the east of Kent. Temperatures will stay the same across most of the county on Friday morning into the afternoon, and the wind will pick up with lows of 3 near Tonbridge Wells. The sun will be replaced by clouds into next week, but we'll see a rise in temperatures to 10 degrees. And welcome back to Kent Tonight, live on KMTV on Thursday the 14th of December. In case you missed it, Kent's roads claim another life as a woman dies and 3 others are injured in a crash in Tonbridge.
The incident happened around 8:20 last night and involved a black Toyota, a silver Renault and a blue Nissan Micra.
Kent's post offices brace themselves for their busiest day of the year.
It's a very challenging time in terms of managing the extra resources. For example, here at Medway, as we speak, we've employed another 430 workers here to cope with the rush at this time of year.
200 years after her death, Kent remembers Jane Austen's birthday with an annual lecture.
I suppose she seems to stand out especially in this modern world, really.
And in sport, Connor Wilkinson and Bradley Garmston return ahead of Gillingham's League One clash with Bristol Rovers.
Time now for your pick of the papers with a look at what's making the news in print, online and radio across Kent. Earlier on today I spoke to KMTV's Duarte Diaz, who started off by telling me about a festive attraction in Canterbury which has been getting complaints from the public.
So the first story is about the opening of an ice rink in Canterbury, which has been branded a complete shambles. So the Dane John's Gardens ice rink was originally planned to open on December the 1st, but delays have set it back quite a bit, so much so that it still hasn't opened yet, and it looks like it's nowhere near completion. This is the state last time we visited. And as we can see, it's just a few boards and it looks like it's got a bit of a structure, but it's nowhere near an ice rink. And many people obviously are angry because they had bookings on a website, which was made live prematurely. So that's gotten a few people angry. One of them is Kim Amos, who paid £135 to book 24 school children from this St. Stephen Juniors to go this past Monday, but obviously they couldn't go because it wasn't open yet. And operators had even failed to respond to their emails, so quite a bit of controversy there. Needless to say, children are disappointed, as it was meant to be a treat for them. Our sister newspaper, the Kentish Gazette, tried contacting them. They said that they'd call back, but they've not heard from them. So it's been a while, and they haven't gone anywhere.
And what's the second story about?
So our second story is a bit more lighthearted. The shopping centre Westwood Cross in Thanet is looking for a special family in that area who deserves to receive a special Christmas treat, because they have a £500 gift card for the shopping centre, a Christmas hamper and a whole family ticket for Santa's Grotto, or their Santa's Grotto. And they want to give it away to a family who perhaps had a very difficult year or went above and beyond for their community and could use, the little pick-me-up, little treat. So if anyone who's watching this knows of anyone who feel like they deserve it, they have until midday on Monday, the 18th of September, to vote on the Westwood Cross website.
Great, thanks for that, Duarte.
Thank you.
A reminder, you can watch Kent Tonight live and on catch-up at our website, kmtv.co.uk. You can stay up to date with all the news, sport and weather from right across Kent, whenever and wherever you are. You'll find breaking news, local features and repeats of our special programmes. Now, with news of a stunning comeback in last night's football, here's Keelan with the sport. First of all, Keelan, Kent are looking for a new director of cricket.
Yeah, that's right. So even though it's the festive period at the moment, not much cricket going on in this country, or none at all. Of course, we've got the Ashes at the moment over in Australia. But Kent are still firmly looking ahead to the next season, which will kick off in around April. And they're looking, as you say, for a director of cricket. The CEO, Jamie Clifford, is leaving, but he's been speaking about what this role will do for Kent. And it's a role that a lot of other cricket sides around the county have got, around the country, and has been successful for them. So Kent are looking to follow that model, and hopefully after the disappointing campaign they had last season where they weren't able to get promotion and didn't do so well in the one-day formats, they'll be hoping that this role, which they are trying to seek for a longer-term role, will help them to improve in all aspects, both on and off the field. To football now, and there was one game involving a Kent side last night, and it was an absolute thriller in the Bostik South. Nick Davis's Sittingbourne side led 2-0 at Cray Wanderers with 12 minutes to play, but ended up losing by 3-2. This was the equalising goal for the hosts in the opening minute of stoppage time before they went on to grab a winner. Goals from Kane Rowland and Miles Cornwell looked set to end Cray's 13-game unbeaten run, but the stirring comeback means the Brickies remain 8th in the table. You're up to date in sport from across Kent. I'll be back with more for you tomorrow.
And finally, we have some music made in Medway for you. Friends Logan Ellis and Dom Lingham have been songwriting together for many years. They've recently formed a hard rock band called I Within and can often be found gigging across Kent. In a minute, they'll be playing something a bit more softer for us. But first, let's hear all about the band. So how did it all come about, the band?
Oh, it's about 5 years ago now, isn't it? We got in contact with each other. You were looking for a guitarist.
Yeah, that was right.
So, originally, I thought I was too young, but I kind of took my chances and got in contact with you. And when I came over for an audition, that's my first audition into a band, and it went from there. We played. Yeah, it was when we first came in contact. We were going to say a song to play together, and we just happened to say the same song at the same time. Like we didn't even know that we liked that kind of music.
Yeah, that's
we just happened to mention the same song to practice, and then from then on we knew that.
Yeah, and since then it's been plain sailing. We know exactly what sort of music we want to do. So.
And how would you describe your music for people who haven't heard it yet?
I'd say it's sort of like angsty. I don't know. It's rock, hard rock. I'd say it's hard rock, sort of angsty. It's very,
angry.
It's a little bit angry, but it's also it tries to convey a message. So
definitely, yeah.
And in terms of musical inspiration, are there any bands or artists that inspire you in particular?
Absolutely, 3 Days Grace.
3 Days Grace, massively.
Yeah, massively, because. They're huge influence. Breaking Benjamin as well.
We both grew up listening to that kind of music, and it really kind of stayed with us. And
it definitely conveys through our music.
And you're writing an album at the moment. Yeah. How's that going?
It's going brilliantly.
Yeah, it's actually going really well.
Yeah.
Normally we get a lot of hurdles and hiccups along the way, but this time it's actually just going quite nicely.
Yeah, it's going quite good.
You've also got some gigs coming up, haven't you, in the county? Or
we've actually got a gig tonight.
We've got a gig tonight.
Yeah, we've got a gig over at Cargo on the university campus.
Over in Gillingham.
Yeah.
It'll be our first time playing there as a band.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, technically it's our first show, so if anyone is going to be going, that's probably a good one to see.
Yeah.
Fantastic. If you can tell me a little bit about the song you're going to be playing for us in a second. Where did it come about, or how long did it take you to write it?
So the song's called Being Human.
Yeah, Being Human. It didn't actually take us that long to write. It kind of it was one of those things where it just happened, you know. But it's sort of about, it's a play on words, being human. It's about being a human being, and it's sort of, you know, everyone can mess up and everyone can be in situations that they don't really want to be in and stuff. So it's sort of meant to, you know, give that across to people if they listen and they're like, oh wow, I can relate to this.
Fantastic. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so do you want to count in?
1, 2, 3, 4.
tell your tales of old, which is you, that's not me. It scratches deep on my soul, it's buried down beneath. I can't feel you anymore. I watch you walk right out the door. There's nothing in your eyes that I can't see. Alone it terrifies and makes me weak. That's being human. As the journey begins, you find good in the bad. Now that I'm nearing my home, you should know this is damned. I can't feel you anymore. I watch you walk right out the door. There's nothing in your eyes that I can't see. Alone it terrifies and makes me weak. That's being human. That's being human. I tried my best to make things right. I tried my best to make things right.